What is going on, New York Giants fans? We have about a minute left in this preseason game against the New England Patriots, and I wanted to give my thoughts on this game. I wanted to give some quick thoughts. I have some pros, I have some cons, and I'm going to give you my overall thoughts on what I saw tonight from the New York Giants, both offensively and defensively. Now, before we get into this, I want to encourage everybody to follow us on Twitter. The link will be in the description. Hit that subscribe button. We're trying to break 400 subscribers. Now, first, I want to say this much. Now, we know that Evan Ingram has a calf injury. I'm not going to read too much into that. We know that he was ruled out of the game before the first half ended. But the thing is, we don't know how severe that calf injury actually is. So until the reports come out on how serious it is, I don't want to overreact. I don't want to make any assumptions. I just hope, same thing with the Dory Jackson, that we can have them for week 1 back and healthy. But you never want to see your players go down with an injury, and I like that the Giants played it safe, and hopefully, again, we can have Evan Ingram back and healthy in our lineup. Now, another point I want to make is I really do think that if Shane Lemieux misses any time, that the Giants should start Jonathan Harrison. I thought that in the second half, Jonathan Harrison looked pretty solid. We saw the Giants make some adjustments on the offensive line. We saw, Nate Solder on the right side. Very interesting to see how the Giants played the offensive line. But again, I think that if Shane Lemieux misses any time, the Giants should start Jonathan Harrison. Now, another thing I want to say before I get into the pros and the cons, we need to pump the brakes, right? We need to pump the brakes on Daniel Jones. We need to pump the brakes on the offensive line. Overall, we need to pump the brakes with this team. I understand, a lot of Giants fans on Twitter were kind of overreacting to what was going on. And I get it. I love the preseason just as much as the next guy. But at the end of the day, it's just a preseason. It doesn't mean anything. Let's be honest here, right? Saquon Barkley, Kenny Golladay, Kadarius Toney, they're all going to make not only this offense, but this offensive line that much better when they're on the field. And this was Daniel Jones' first preseason game. So we got to give Daniel Jones a little bit of slack. I thought that, with what we saw on the field, our expectations shouldn't have been too high, but I understand, Giants fans kind of freaking out over Daniel Jones in the offensive line. But again, guys, let's pump the brakes a little bit. Again, with Barkley and Golladay and Toney on the field, it's only going to make this offense better. It's only going to make this offensive line better. And I think that, we'll see a better product on the field once we play Denver and as we go forward. Now, let's go into some pros and cons. Let's start with probably my favorite play of the entire preseason game. Shout out my man, Blake Martinez. Blake Martinez. Look, Packers fans had people thinking that this man couldn't cover, that he was only a tackling machine, and that was really it. Now, he was pretty decent in coverage last year. I'm not going to come out here and lie to you guys and say that, he was amazing in pass pro. He wasn't. He wasn't. But he looked very solid tonight. Tonight, we all know he had a crazy interception on Cam Newton where he literally tracked the ball and stole it out of the receiver's hands. That was easily my favorite play of the entire game. It was so nice to see Blake Martinez really stand out. I think that it's kind of ludicrous how he hasn't been selected to the Pro Bowl. It's really beyond me, if I'm being honest. But I do think that this will be the year he does get selected into the Pro Bowl. And you guys know me, I'm not really crazy about the Pro Bowl. I think that it's more of a popularity contest, but he should be in the Pro Bowl. We all know that he was snubbed last year. He should have been in the Pro Bowl, but I do think that this will be the year that Blake Martinez goes into the Pro Bowl. Now, I want to say this much because we're going to talk about Daniel Jones here. Daniel Jones looks solid. I got to be honest with you guys. Look, hear me out. Outside of that interception, which I'm not going to lie to you guys, it was horrible. It was a horrible interception on Daniel Jones' part. He threw the ball behind Evan Ingram. He should have thrown the ball out of bounds if he didn't see anything, or try to at least run it for a yard or two and go out of bounds. But Daniel Jones looked better than I anticipated, and he even made a nice touchdown pass to Caden Smith before the half ended. Beautiful ball placement. I was very happy with what I saw. I thought that Daniel Jones had better ball control. We saw last year that, he took strides on that. He was making improvements on his ball control because, that's really Daniel Jones' biggest issue is turning the ball over and holding onto the ball. But he seemed to have better control of the ball. There was one play in particular where our offensive line collapsed in the first quarter, and even though Daniel Jones took a big hit and was covered by Patriots, he still held on to the ball. And to me, that really stood out to me. I got to be honest with you. It's a little step in the right direction, but to see that he's been working on that, which we saw last year, and to see that he's only making improvements, it's really nice to see. I got to be honest with you. Now, I do want to say that I thought that his pre-snap adjustments were nice. I thought that, that's something that we know that he's been working on. And it's only going to help the offense, right? It's only going to help out the offense. It's only going to help out the offensive line during the season. And we see that with him making these adjustments, it's helping the offensive line. And we also see that when Daniel Jones has time, he can cut up a defense, man. He cut up the Patriots starting defense when he had time. Let me emphasize that. When he had time. We saw too many Patriots in the backfield on plays. And honestly, in the first half, we saw the Patriots in the backfield way too much. I got to be very honest with you guys. We saw the Patriots in the backfield way too much in the first half, and that kind of did have me a little concerned considering that in 2 weeks, we're going to have Bradley Chubb and Von Miller coming. So the Giants need to make some adjustments. We know that Joe Judge is going to, he pretty much promised that we're going to go out there and get some offensive linemen. If it was up to me, we got the draft capital. I would trade a second-round pick for a nice guard. I know that's a little bit of a reach, but I don't think our tackles are really the issue. I think that it is the interior offensive line. I think we all know that. But to me, I think that with Bradley Chubb and Von Miller coming, this offensive line has to get right. So, again, when DJ has time, he's cutting up defenses. I really liked what I saw from DJ overall. Let's pump the brakes on DJ. I think that he'll be fine. Now, I want to say this much. Sterling Shepard is easily our best route runner on this roster. He looked shifty. He had a nice catch and run on the biggest play of the game for him. He looks like a breakout candidate if you're asking me. We heard great things coming from Sterling Shepard. We heard that he had a strong camp. We heard that he looked very good, in joint practices. So it'll be definitely interesting to see how Joe Judge and the team uses him. But I have faith that Sterling Shepard will be a very nice player for us and will probably lead this team in yards, if not receptions. But I also thought the special teams looked very solid. Now, look. I'm not surprised that the special teams looked solid. You look at Joe Judge's track record. Even before Joe Judge came, we had a solid special teams, really from, Thomas McGahee. But they looked like a strong force this season. I got to give them that much. And I really did think that, CJ Board plays a nice role with the New York Giants on special teams. I got to say this much. If there is a player that we don't expect to make the roster that will make the roster, I do think that it is CJ Board. Just because, he's versatile. He can play special teams. He could do punt returns on special teams, kick returns on special teams. He could play on the outside as well. Where a player like, David Sills, he's really an outside guy. I would personally take Sills over CJ Board, but I wouldn't be shocked if a player like CJ Board made the roster. Now, another player that really stood out to me in this game is Rodarius Williams. Rodarius Williams had himself a game, man. I really got to say that much. And we had I gotta stop. We had a nice touchdown. A nice touchdown with 8 seconds to go. Right to Willis, number 87, it's a little weird to see, because we're so used to seeing Sterling Shepard wearing that number 87, who is now number 3. But what a beautiful, beautiful pass and even better catch in the end zone by Willis. That's coming off of Mike Glennon. It's going to put us 22-20 at this point. But going back into it, Rodarius Williams had himself a game. He had some nice pass breakups. He held his own on the defense along James Bradbury. And honestly, he's had a strong camp. We all know this. He's had a strong camp. And I think that the talent level that we're getting from Rodarius Williams is a steal considering where we selected him. While as I wouldn't want him, starting, you would want Adoree Jackson starting. If Adoree Jackson were to go down, I'm not having an issue with Rodarius Williams being on the opposite side of James Bradberry. We'll probably have that bend but don't break approach, which we had last year. But again, you don't want to see Rodarius Williams starting, but it's nice to see that we have some pretty decent depth on the cornerback side. But to me, Rodarius Williams, shout out Rodarius Williams. He's looking strong. He's looking solid. Very nice selection there for the New York Giants. Now, another pro that we're going to get into is Corey Clement. Corey Clement looked like running back 3, if I'm being honest with you. And I think that he will take that spot, and the Giants will put Gary Brightwell on the practice squad. That's just my honest opinion. I think that he hits the holes harder. I think he's more versatile than Gary Brightwell. And I think that he actually could play that Dion Lewis kind of role for the New York Giants. A lot of Giants fans in the beginning of the preseason were saying that, he should be running back 2. Devontae Booker didn't look too good, but Devontae Booker has shown that he's definitely running back number 2. But I'd like to see Corey Clement at running back 3. Now, another pro that I really liked was this defense. This defense looks amazing. I'm really excited to see how this defense will look going against some of the best offenses in the league this year. I'm really excited to see the kind of scheme that Patrick Graham's going to draw up for these guys, because this defense has the potential to be a top 5 defense. We were top 10 last year, but I really do think that this team has the potential to be a top 5 defense, and hopefully they will. Now, we're going to touch on the offensive line. The offensive line had moments where they did look promising, and they gave DJ time to go through his reads and find his receivers. One thing that I definitely took note of was Nate Solder. Nate Solder definitely looked decent at right tackle for us, compared to at least how Matt Parrott looked, and we're going to get to that in a second. But I actually wouldn't be surprised if Nate Solder is our starting right tackle, because it is looking like the safest route. But I thought the offensive line had moments where it looked promising. Very interesting to see what the Giants do after this game in regards to the offensive line. Now we're going to go, I'm going to make a little bright spot on Elijah Penny. He is versatile, but we all know Elijah Penny's going to make this roster. Now we're going to touch the cons now, because I know that's what you guys probably want to see. Let's start off with Daniel Jones. I think personally, from what I saw, Daniel Jones needs to go through his reads faster. That's not rocket science. We all know this. But we don't want him holding onto the ball for that long, and he needs to get rid of the ball quicker. And I get it. This is his first preseason game. I don't want to overreact to it, but that was something that he did struggle with last year. He just needs to go through his reads a little bit faster. I think that he will as the season progresses. We got to be, while Daniel Jones is on the hot seat a little patient with Daniel Jones in terms of his reads, but I do think that will be something that he improves on. Now, on the topic of Daniel Jones, he needs to make better decisions, right? We all know this. His poor decision play, it pretty much costed us a touchdown on that drive. The offense looked like it was in a groove. DJ looked sharp up until that point, but they ran the same play twice, which made no sense to me at all. I thought that was a horrible play call decision by Jason Garrett, but Daniel Jones has to be better. He has to be better. That ball was placed behind Evan Ingram. And if you're going to make that kind of a throw, it either be A, on the money, or B, throw the ball out of bounds. Live to see another down. So Daniel Jones has to be better in that aspect. Again, I'm not going to overreact because it's just a preseason. It's just one game. But that definitely was something that kind of alarmed me, if I'm being honest with you. Now let's look at the offensive line. Andrew Thomas and Matt Parrott looked rough this game, and that's me being nice. That's me being nice, especially Andrew Thomas. I'm not gonna look too deep into it, but the problems that he had in this game, at least, were not the same problems he was having last season. I think that if you're asking me, Andrew Thomas, he had that holding penalty, and it's all good. It's going to happen. He's not going to be perfect. But Andrew Thomas was letting too many defenders get into the backfield too often. I feel like he relies on his athleticism a little too much, which can be a bad thing, but I'm not going to jump ship on him. I'm not. He definitely looked rough in this game, but I'm not going to jump ship on Andrew Thomas. If DJ, let alone this offense, wants to be successful, we all know that, this offensive line is going to have to do their part. And, hopefully we could target some players, at least for depth purposes on the waiver wire. But Andrew Thomas has to play better. He really has to play better, and I believe that he will. Again, this offensive line is going to take a little bit of time. Again, man, Andrew Thomas, he's going to be fine. Bad play, not the best start for Andrew Thomas, but he's going to be fine. Now, Matt Parrott is, to me, a completely different story. He's missed some time. We know that he's been dealing with with a back injury. But look, he's missed some blocks in this game. He got tossed around on some plays, which doesn't help his case for starting. But when you really look at it, he's still having some of the same issues that he was dealing with in college. And that's kind of my concern with Matt Parrott. I don't want to just give the starting right tackle position to Matt Parrott just because, he's a younger player, has a higher ceiling than Nate Solder. When Nate Solder actually looked like he played a lot better than Matt Parrott in this game. And we were hearing that he was actually having himself a solid camp and didn't look like he missed any time whatsoever. So that's definitely a positive, but I have faith in Matt Parrott, but he's definitely going to have to show that. We don't know if his back injury is the reason for his play and how he's been playing, but at the same time, I don't want to give too many excuses for Matt Parrott. He has to step up, but he definitely did not help his case for starting in this game in particular, and I wouldn't be surprised again if Nate Solder is our starting right tackle, at least for the start of the season. Now, we're going to also look at Darius Slayton. Darius Slayton, to me, looked a bit slow. I also thought he had a crucial drop that would have extended the drive. We know what play I'm talking about. But he just, I don't know, man. I really don't know with Darius Slayton. One thing I will say was, he was seen limping to the side after getting called for holding on that quick pass to the running back. But it doesn't appear to be serious. We saw him on the drive again. We actually saw him on the next drive back on the field. I'm glad he's okay because we don't need any more of our players, let alone our key players, getting injured, before the season starts. We're seeing that throughout the whole league, and we don't need to be one of those teams, especially with our key players. I don't think that Darius Slayton's going to have a down year, but Darius Slayton definitely did not have the best game tonight. Now, I thought our second team defense had issues tackling. And I'm going to be honest with you. I don't got a lot of expectations for the second team defense, considering that most of these players are not going to make the roster. But if you look at that one touchdown run for the Patriots that gave them 19 points, the defense looked lost. They definitely had some bad tackling taking place that could have stopped that touchdown, especially Peters. I don't remember his first name. I just know that he wore number 31. Got to be better. Got to be better. And if you're asking me, man, I'm not stressing about it too much because, again, most of these players aren't going to make the roster. But still a concern. Still a concern. I guess a hot take, if you will, is I could see a player like David Moa taking BJ Hill's spot on the roster. I think that you could get the same production. You're actually going to, if you were to sign David Moa and release BJ Hill, you would save some money because I believe BJ Hill is making about $2 million this year. But David Moe looked pretty solid. So, again, I'm not too worried about the second team defense, considering that a lot of them aren't going to be on the roster come Tuesday. But these were my pros and cons. I just wanted to give you guys my quick thoughts on this game. What were some things you guys saw in this game, let alone in the preseason, that you guys liked or disliked? I'm very excited for Denver. I don't care who's playing, if you're asking me. Bridgewater, Drew Lock, don't really care. I know that our defense could stop that offense. It's just up to this offense, and can this offense hold its own? But let us know your thoughts below. Follow us on Twitter. Hit that subscribe button. We'll see you guys in the next video.